Fantasy Baseball. I'm your host, Will Power, joined by John Murrow. We missed you last week, man. How was Arizona?
It was wonderful. I missed you. Missed the hobby too, and glad to be back though.
Yeah, I bet
Ready
you
to
had a
talk some
great
baseball.
time. You sent me a couple pictures from being at Chase Field. I've actually been there once before. It was a crazy time. We actually drove to Arizona. Took about 7 hours to get there. Went to the Diamondbacks and I think it was the Mariners. And then we drove home that same day and then went to the Dodger game that night. We were actually able to make it back in time for that. So 2 baseball games in one day. That was a fun day.
That is a fun day. And
Yes.
so, yeah, it was a beautiful stadium. I only have 3 more to go till I see them all, and looking forward to it. So I got Atlanta later this summer, White Sox, and Minnesota probably in the next couple of years. But Atlanta at least later this summer, so then it'll just be 2.
For now, until they do more expansion teams, and then you'll have to add a couple more to the list.
I was thinking about that. Vegas, Nashville. Yeah, but that's okay. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where they're going. Well, you definitely have to hit up Vegas. That one's for sure. But I'm also hearing maybe bringing back another Montreal team. And they're also talking about, like you said, Nashville. And I've also heard Portland, Oregon. Now, Portland is a very big college sports state city, actually. But yeah, they don't have any professional sports teams that I know of. And
the Trailblazers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, but no baseball. You know, it's like the closest thing they have is the Mariners. And I when you look at the map for MLB stadiums, there's so much more on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast, which makes sense because, you know, the East Coast, that's where it all started, you know, like New York. And then they kind of like branched out into like different territories and everything, but not a lot on the West Coast. So I'm really hoping that the 2 new expansion teams, or if they add more, I'm not sure how many they're adding, that there'll be more West Coast, because like if you look at Texas, the Rangers and the Astros both are in the Central. They should be in the Central, but they're considered the American League West. You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think we need to add some more teams to the West Coast, and Portland would be great. Vegas, I mean, that doesn't really help much because all they're doing is just moving from one West Coast state to another West Coast state. But I don't know. We'll see. But we have a great lineup to talk about today. Today on the show, we got second half breakouts and busts, and some home run derby and all-star game talk. So let's get it started.
Let's do it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Before we get started, why don't you guys go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button? We would much appreciate that. We have a lot of players to go over today, so let's get started. Starting with the bust column, players that have had a great first half that we just don't trust for the rest of the season. Now, John, I asked you to pick one hitter and one pitcher as your second half bust, so go ahead and get it started. Who is your second half bust hitter?
My second half bust hitter, this is actually going to lead into probably our next conversation, I would say, but I'm going to actually start with Teoscar Hernandez, and I'm going to start with him only. I mean, he's a nice player, don't get me wrong, and he's gotten off to an amazing start with the Dodgers. I think we're starting to see signs, especially in the past 30 days or so, of him coming, quote unquote, back to life or being the player that he should be. But even the player that he should be is still a good baseball player. What I'll say is I don't expect this guy to, quote unquote, fall off a cliff or anything like that, but he did just announce last night during the Phillies-Dodgers game that he would be participating in this year's home run derby. So usually that can mess with a player's swing a little bit. So I'm picking Teoscar. He's currently batting .257 with 19 home runs and 60 RBIs in his first season with the Dodgers, but he's had a tough month of June. He only batted .232 with 6 homers and 17 RBIs. So again, we're starting to see him come back to life a little bit. Now, again, since June's ended and he's kicked off July with a vengeance, batting 344 so far this month, but that's still only good for a 234 average over his past 30 days. So I think the All-Star break is coming at an unwelcome time for him now that he's really starting to get hot. And I truthfully just don't trust anybody that participates in the home run derby. It can have a huge impact on guys' swings, their mentality, everything. So all of this to say, Hernandez has hit 267 with 76 hits, 11 homers, and 43 RBI last year. And he is this year also on an expiring 1-year deal. So he's going to have pressure to perform. He's got to get his next contract. He's on a team where, Mookie Betts, there's a lot of stars around him. So there's pressure to perform as well. I personally see Teoscar as a guy who's going to come back into, let's say a 260, 255-ish hitter for the remainder of the year. I just want to manage expectations. So I don't want to say he's going to be a bust. I just want to tamper expectations. I don't think you should expect to get 40 home runs out of this guy at the end of the year if he's on pace currently to hit around 40. He's got a career high of 32 in a season. So if you have the opportunity to sell high, I would consider it if you can get good value for him. He's not going to be a bust, but I don't think he's going to be the same player he was in the first half.
Yeah, I think you can say that about a lot of hitters, actually, because, pitching's been kind of like down this season and hitting, I don't know, it's been kind of like all over the place. Like there's been some pitchers that you didn't think that you could trust for the season, and all of a sudden they're pitching amazing, or on the flip side, there's a lot of hitters that you thought you could trust that are not playing as well as they should be. Pete Alonso kind of comes to mind. You expect this guy to hit close to 30 home runs by the time the All-Star break comes around, and he's not even close to that, So Teoscar Hernandez, I knew that this was going to be an upgrade for him moving from Seattle to the Dodgers lineup because, the Seattle Mariners don't have the greatest lineup. They are first in the division in the AL West, but, they're not the star-studded lineup that the Dodgers are, and he's right in the middle of that. Now that Mookie Betts is out, Teoscar Hernandez has actually been hitting like 2 or 3 in the lineup, right in front of Freddie Freeman and right after Shohei Ohtani. So that's a lot of run opportunities, a lot of RBI opportunities. Now this power kind of came out of nowhere. We haven't seen this type of power from Teoscar Hernandez like ever. He's always hit the ball really, really hard, 91, 92 miles an hour on average, 114, 115 miles an hour max. But the home runs have never really been like this for him. He has 19 already. Like that's crazy to me, considering last season he played 160 games and only hit 26. His career high previously was 32 in Toronto, and that was in 143 games. Now, granted, he is in a better ballpark for home runs. Dodger Stadium is easier to hit home runs than it is versus Seattle or Toronto. So that is in his favor a little bit, and maybe because he plays in, Coors Field more often now, and the National League ballparks just kind of in general are a little bit easier to hit home runs in. So that could possibly be it. But it wouldn't surprise me if Teoscar Hernandez kind of fell off a little bit, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he just kind of like continues what he's doing, because all of his expected stats look really good. You said his batting average is like 257. His expected batting average is 253. Like I said, he's hitting the ball really hard. He pulls the ball a decent amount, so he can hit him, out of left field. So yeah, I don't disagree, but I also don't agree with that. So
that's fair.
Moving on to my bust hitter. Let's see. All right, Jurickson Profar. So first half numbers for Profar: 311 batting average, a 402 on base percentage, 489 slug, and an 891 OPS. Now, usually for a hitter to lose our trust, their underlying numbers are usually very underwhelming, but Jurickson Profar's StatCast page is completely filled with red. I don't know if you've looked at it at all, but expected batting average is 296, X slug is 459, X WOBA 372, Highest hard hit percentage of his career at 42.4%. His previous career high was 34.3%. It's a crazy difference. He's always had great plate discipline. So he's okay in points leagues, but he's never really hit the ball that hard. Previous career high average exit velocity is 87.5 miles per hour. This season, Profar's average exit velocity is 90.9 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour higher than his previous career high. Career barrel percentage for Jurickson Profar is 4.6%. This season, he's increased to 7.5%. Underlying numbers look great, but why don't I trust Jurickson Profar in his 8 big league seasons, not counting the 2020 season, because I personally don't count that too much. His highest batting average was 254, highest on base percentage was 335, and highest OPS was 793, all in 2018 when he was with the Rangers. Career batting average is 245, career on base percentage 330, and career slug 393, career OPS 723. So at 31 years old, all of a sudden, I'm supposed to believe that this guy's a 300 hitter and close to a 900 OPS. I'm sorry, but I'm not buying it. And honestly, if someone else is buying it, I'm selling it. And I'm selling high as hell on Jurickson Profar. He's one of the best hitters in the league right now, or at least that's what it kind of like seems, right? But if I'm a Jurickson Profar owner, I'm trying to get someone in return that's kind of struggling, that I know is a better hitter than Profar, and maybe Matt Olson in return, who's been struggling heavily at the plate this season. He's only batting 239 with 13 home runs so far. I don't expect Matt Olson to have the same type of production he did in the second half of last season, but I'm also expecting Matt Olson to be a much better fantasy option than Jurickson Profar for the second half. So that was my bust for 2024, second half bust for 2024. All right, John, let's move on to our starting pitcher bust.
Let me throw in real quick on Profar that this guy was signed last year by the Rockies as a free agent, and they released him in August. So by the Rockies, by the way. So if there's a guy where it's impossible to buy in on Jurickson Profar, I think it's a great story what he's doing, and if he can keep it up, more power to him. But like you said, if you can sell high on this guy, I mean, he just hasn't been consistent. We've never seen this for a full season. He's setting career highs and everything. So I would sell high ASAP.
Yeah. And he's on the wrong side of 30 also. So towards this second half of the season, his body's going to start slowing down a little bit. He's not going to, I really don't think he'll be able to continue this pace.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Want to talk pitchers now?
Yeah, let's go to your starting pitcher bust.
Cool. I will go to my second least favorite team in baseball, Reynaldo Lopez for the Braves. The Mets have to be the first least favorite team in baseball. But Reynaldo Lopez, I'll say it's hard to believe, just looking over his stats, that he's been in the league as long as he has. He's been in the league since 2016 when he came up with the Nationals, pitched in 11 games before heading over the White Sox in a trade that sent Adam Eaton to Washington for Reynaldo Lopez, Dane Dunning, and Lucas Giolito. So I truthfully love going back and looking at these trades, by the way. But anyway, Lopez has shown flashes of excellence throughout his career on 5 different rosters, just not consistently. So this season, Lopez is a top candidate to take home the Cy Young Award currently, where he has a 7-2 record, 1.71 ERA, and that's helped him earn his first All-Star nod. But like Teoscar Hernandez, I truthfully don't expect Lopez to be a bust in the second half. I just don't expect him to keep it up. So looking at his stats to start the season, ultimately, when you take a deeper dive, I'm not really sure how he has an expected batting average or expected ERA of 4.27. That doesn't make any sense to me. He's currently got a 1.71 ERA. So still diving into those, hitters this year are hitting 209 against him, but his expecting batting average is 251, and over his career, hitters have hit 242 against him. So this guy gets hit pretty well. He's gotten hit pretty hard this season so far. It's just been lucky in the sense that a lot of these balls are going either right at guys or they're making plays, but I don't expect him to fall off a cliff, but I do expect his ERA definitely to start with a 2, if not a 3 by season's end. And can he keep this pace up in the second half? I don't expect that. Can he still be a good pitcher? Sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I was actually going to have Reynaldo Lopez as my bust pitcher until you kind of like snagged him away from me, but that's okay. I actually completely agree with everything you just said. I know the underlying numbers for Reynaldo Lopez, that they are jumping off the page like super bad. His StatCast page is filled with blue, and if you don't know, blue is really bad. Like you said, 4.27 expected ERA, 251 expected batting average. Average exit velocity is almost at 90 miles an hour, and he does have a lot of balls going on the ground, which I think is I'm sorry. He actually doesn't have a lot of balls going on the ground, which is possibly a lot of pop-ups, going out into the outfield or infield. And if you hit a pop-up a mile high, it doesn't matter how hard you hit it. A good MLB player is going to catch it. And that could be one of the things that could make his ERA a little bit, expected ERA a little bit inflated, that he's allowing so many fly balls and line drives. But the Braves have a pretty good defensive roster, other than Marcell Ozuna, who is their permanent DH now. We've seen, Marcell Ozuna make some really bad misplays in left field before. Kind of funny, actually. And then he's actually like laughed it off himself. He knows he's not that good in the outfield, but yeah, Ozzy Albies and Matt Olson, Braves are good. Braves are good in the field. So I think that they have been doing really good for Reynaldo Lopez and saving some runs and saving some hits for him. But I think the downfall is coming. So I agree. If you can sell high on Reynaldo Lopez, I would definitely do that. I don't think anyone would go for this, but you could potentially go for like a Garrett Cole, who is struggling right now, or a Walker Buehler that is on the injured list that came back from Tommy John surgery, who has much more upside than Reynaldo Lopez does. A lot of options. So, and just in case you guys don't know, let me put this up here. Right there. All right. Scan that QR code in the top right corner and it'll take you all of our social medias. If you have any fantasy questions, we are here for you guys. And oh man, my allergies are acting up today. All right. So my starting pitcher bust for the second half is Seth Lugo, currently sporting a 2.21 ERA and 19 starts this season. Now, I really like Seth Lugo. I always have, but is he really a low 2s ERA starting pitcher? No way. Taking a look at his expected stats, Lugo has an expected ERA of 3.85, a full run and a half higher than his actual ERA. Strikeout percentage is one of the lowest of his career. Expected batting average on all of his pitches are 250 or above, with the exception of the curveball. Curveball is great, but the dude has an arsenal of 8 pitches, and each one of them has had some great luck so far this season, which will most definitely run out sooner or later. Expected slug looks terrible. Expected WOBA looks terrible. Second lowest ground ball percentage of his career, allowing a lot of hard contact. Seth Lugo is one of the ultimate sell high starting pitchers, which I have already taken part of. I traded away Seth Lugo for who was struggling, Randy Arozarena, who seems to be turning it around now. So I see this as a win, considering that I think Seth Lugo is going to kind of fall apart. He's also on the other side of 30 also. So Seth Lugo, I think he's that's why I have him on my bust, right? The production so far has been great, but I think you can go out and get yourself something better in return. Maybe like one of our breakout options, which we can actually start giving you now. So John, who is your second half breakout hitter?
Second half breakout hitter is going to be a guy that I had huge expectations for going into the year, as did probably most everybody else, and that is Mr. Corbin Carroll, outfielder for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I was at the game on Monday in Arizona and just chatting around with a couple Diamondbacks fans in my section. They're all thinking the same thing as me. When is Corbin Carroll going to break out? So Carroll showed last season. Sorry, my phone was just ringing there. Corbin Carroll showed last season that he was a rising superstar in baseball, batting 285, 25 homers, 76 RBI, and 54 stolen bases, ultimately earning him an All-Star nod, Rookie of the Year honors, and 5th place in the National League MVP ballot. So this year's been pretty much the exact opposite for Corbin Carroll. So he's currently batting, and even though he's on one of my fantasy teams, and seeing this on the big board in Arizona just doesn't seem real for July, but Carroll's currently batting .211 with 3 home runs, 25 RBI, and 16 stolen bases, in addition to a .614 OPS compared to his .868 OPS he had in 2023. So the 23-year-old outfielder hasn't done anything great this season outside of his great range as an outfielder, and he's a really good base runner, but that's not really just going to get you many fantasy points. So his expected batting average of 245 is a lot higher than his actual 211 batting average. The bat speed's still there. He's just not barreling up the baseball in the same way. And when I went and looked at the advanced numbers a little bit, what's really been killing him this season is the breaking ball. So last season, Corbin Carroll hit 295 with a 528 slugging percentage against the breaking ball. This year, he's hitting 140 with a 198 slugging percentage against the breaking ball. That right there is telling you just throw curveballs, just throw slide. Anything that's breaking, he's not touching it right now. So I can't think of anybody in baseball who needs more of a mental break than Corbin Carroll. And I do expect him to study some tape over the next week plus, but he's got to figure out his timing. I don't think it's unrealistic to hope, not expect, but to hope that Corbin Carroll can replicate what he did after the All-Star break last season. He hit 280, 72 hits. 7 of those were home runs, 28 RBIs, and 53 runs scored in 69 games after the All-Star break. So that's the Corbin Carroll I know and expect, and what we should hope to see. But he hasn't shown much of anything this season. So any kind of anything would just be a welcome sign to fantasy owners for Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, and I think you traded for Corbin Carroll in our keeper league, right?
Yeah, it was a great trade. I'd do it again.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the future is actually really bright for Corbin Carroll. Now, one thing that you didn't mention is that last year in the playoffs, when he was in the World Series, he was held out for one game because of shoulder discomfort. Now, they've been talking about Corbin Carroll potentially getting shoulder surgery sometime. I wish they would have done that during the offseason, and maybe this is something that's kind of hindering him. Maybe he's compensating because of that shoulder. I think shoulder surgery is definitely in the cards for Corbin Carroll. Who knows when that's actually going to happen? I think that the Diamondbacks were thinking that they were possibly going on another run this season, and it doesn't really look that way. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if Corbin Carroll either turns things around and he just becomes the great hitter that we know that he could be, or the Diamondbacks just decide like, hey, maybe it's just time that you get the surgery now. So that way for 2025, we have you healthy and, back in like your top shape. So I don't know. I wouldn't be a Corbin Carroll buyer in a redraft league, completely different scenario for you that you bought him in a keeper league. But I don't know. The shoulder kind of scares me a little bit, and they don't really have like the definitive DH. So the shoulder surgery might actually be okay for him. When it comes to hitting, he could be back and just DH for a few months, just like Harper did when he came back from his Tommy John surgery, just like Shohei Ohtani is right now. He's not pitching right now, but he's able to hit after Tommy John surgery. So I know it's not going to be Tommy John surgery. That's more elbow than shoulder, but I don't know. Corbin Carroll does scare me for the rest of the season. So we'll see. I do like the upside. He definitely has a lot of upside. He only has 16 stolen bases, which kind of scares me also. I guess because he's just not getting on base as much as he was last season when he stole almost 60. But I do like Corbin Carroll as a potential breakout option. My second half breakout pitcher is the former top prospect, and that would be Christopher Morel of the Chicago Cubs, currently batting .201 with a .306 on base percentage, a .376 slug, and a .682 OPS. These numbers, I believe, are extremely misleading, though. Christopher Morel's expected batting average isn't, jumping off the page. It's sitting at a modest 245, but he does have an expected slug of 458 and an expected WOBA of 352. 97th percentile in bat speed, 79th percentile in barrel percentage, 73rd percentile in hard hit percentage, has excellent plate discipline with an 11.4 walk percentage. Christopher Morel has had some bad luck this season, but his expected numbers are actually a lot closer to what he did in 2023, where his OPS was 821. He hit 26 home runs in 107 games. He currently has 16 home runs on the season, and I believe that he will not only double that, but add a few extra as well. So I'm saying buy low on Christopher Morel right now. He might even be free. I actually picked him up in one of my leagues. Someone dropped him, and a lot of people don't really look at the underlying numbers. They just see the surface numbers for what they are, not what they could be. So if he is on the waiver wire, I definitely recommend picking him up. So I really like Christopher Morel. Anything you want to add, John?
Yeah, I like Chris Morel. I think, if he was a free agent, I would also add him. I think he's got big upside. I also wouldn't be too surprised if his name was thrown out there in trade rumors in real baseball. So something to think about too. I think between him, I know Bellinger's name's been on the block a little bit here. So Cubs are struggling a little bit, and they may consider that. So maybe a change of scenery is good for him. But I get scared a little bit with Christopher Morel in the sense that it seems like it's home run or bust. He's got that Javi Baez swing where he's always trying to hit it to the south side and just trying to kill the ball too much. So I think that's playing into it a bit. But I haven't looked at the advanced stats enough to really dive in. But I do like him as a player a lot. I think he's got good potential, and we'll see.
Yeah, and another thing too is, it's different for every player, but because he plays in Chicago, the windy city, maybe the balls that he's actually hitting really hard, the wind's just kind of like pushing it back in, which could lower his batting average because those balls are caught, or turns into a single rather than a double or a triple or even a home run. So like you said, maybe a change of scenery is just what the doctor is ordering for Christopher Morel. All right. So, John, let's go ahead and go with your second half breakout pitcher.
Yeah. So my second half breakout pitcher I'm going to choose is Kodai Senga. And this is a guy that has not pitched this season. This is also a guy that I targeted in a trade. So I feel like we talk about my trades in a lot here, but I targeted Kodai Senga.
We do a lot of trades. So
we do a lot of trades. But I traded away Alec Boehm for Jared Jones and Kodai Senga. So not loving the trade so far. Thank you, Jared Jones, for straining your right lat. That's not helping much. But Kodai Senga, once he comes back after the All-Star break, I hope he can pick up right where he left off in 2023. So prior to the start of the 2024 season, Senga was placed on the injured list. He had a shoulder injury, and then he was shut down again during his rehab with right triceps tightness. But Senga's pitched twice, so he's coming back, and he's pitched in two different rehab outings, one start. He's up to 52 pitches. He's pitching again today, which lines up that he would pitch again potentially early next week, but there's the All-Star break. So he is probably going to do a simulated game, might be back directly after the All-Star break. But last year, this guy in his rookie season pitched to a 12-7 record, 2.98 ERA, 10.9 strikeouts per 9, and the Mets are very much in the wild card hunt, only half a game back. So with them getting their ace back, they're going to rely on him a lot, and they're going to expect a lot from him too. So I think you'll want to monitor his usage, knowing that he's probably going to pitch every sixth day like he did in Japan instead of every 5 days like most MLB pitchers do. Plus, he's coming off a serious injury, so he may not go too deep into games. But even if this guy can give you 6 or 7 innings max, I think that's, for the 10.9 Ks per 9 and his low ERA, I expect big things out of him. Last year after the All-Star break, he pitched to a 5-2 record with a 2.58 ERA, 89 strikeouts and 13 appearances. And this is a guy that you can trade for, but he's also available in 40% of ESPN leagues, which makes 0 sense to me, and 31% of Yahoo leagues. So if he's on the waiver wire and you can wait, just sit it out this week and he comes back after the All-Star break, I would absolutely take a chance on him.
Yeah, I think the reason for his roster percentage is because there's just so many injuries in baseball right now. It's like let's say someone is just a huge Dodgers fan and they ended up drafting Walker Buehler and Tyler Glasnow and Bobby Miller and Clayton Kershaw and Dustin May, or not Dustin May, because no one expected him really to pitch this season anyway, but Yamamoto, there's so many pitching injuries right now. There's so many hitting injuries right now. There's not a lot of IL spots. I think in our league we have a lot, and we have 4. But in how many injuries do you have in that league? How many injuries?
And still 3/4 of my team is just out. So and I can't do anything about it because we're in a keeper league.
If you really want to try to put the best team out there that you can, you got to kind of pick and choose. And maybe because Kodai Senga still had a while to come back, that could be a reason why he was dropped, or because he's just taking so long to come back. I don't think anyone expected him to take this long to come back. I think it was more like a early June type of thing that a lot of people were expecting. And we're already in July. All-Star break is right around the corner. So it looks like he's probably not coming back until after the All-Star break. And it's probably going to be like an August thing, So if you have the IL spot, or if you have a bench spot that you don't mind kind of just sitting on him, I would highly recommend picking up Kodai Senga. And I wouldn't mind doing a trade for him also, there were a lot of injured pitchers, like Gavin Williams kind of comes to mind, who was injured for a long time, that maybe you could have gotten a trade and missed out on the opportunity. And I think that he is actually a pretty decent breakout option for the second half also. But yeah, I completely agree with what you said about Kodai Senga. And going on to my pitching breakout for the second half, I'm going to go with Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez has had a very underwhelming season so far. In 19 starts, Pablo Lopez has a 5.11 ERA with a win-loss record of 8-7. His expected numbers look very close to his previous 2 seasons, with an expected ERA of 3.38, an expected batting average against of 2.29. Strikeouts look really good. Walk percentage looks really good. Not allowing a lot of hard contact. It looks like his issues this year is an inflated fly ball rate and the lowest ground ball rate of his career. But he is easily the type of pitcher to change things around and be the ace of the Twins like they're paying him to be. If someone is selling Pablo Lopez, I'm buying. Jurickson Profar, who I mentioned as my bust for the second half, I would completely trade away Jurickson Profar to get Pablo Lopez in return. That's something that I would do. That's a great example of a sell high, buy low option. Not calling, Pablo Lopez really a buy low, because I think a lot of people are still they have faith in him. All right. So Javi couldn't make it on the show today, but he did send me his picks for breakouts and busts. So for Javi's choice for busts, he had Tyler Anderson and Cody Bellinger. And for his breakouts, he had O'Neal Cruz and Gavin Williams. I actually just touched on Gavin Williams, but yeah, so those were his options. All right.
Quick change on Cody Bellinger getting traded.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is, are the Cubs going to be sellers? Bellinger only signed a 1-year deal. Like you talked about Christopher Morel earlier. The NL Central is not really a tough division, but the Cubs they're not winning the World Series anytime soon, and I think right now is kind of, it'd be smart to go into rebuild mode and get whatever you can. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to be able to get too much for Christopher Morel. Real baseball, not fantasy baseball, or fantasy baseball either, just because of his actual numbers so far. But that's why we have him as the breakout option, right? All right, so now we can talk about this Monday coming up. We have the Home Run Derby. So there are some new rules in the home run derby. First of all, there is a pitch limit that's now in place. Bonus pitches are no longer on a timer, and we will talk about what is still the same. So, let's see. All right, John, you can see the participants on the screen right there. So we have Pete Alonso, Alec Bohm, Adolis Garcia, Gunnar Henderson, Teoscar Hernandez, Marcelo Osuna, Jose Ramirez, and Bobby Witt Jr. Now, give me your favorite of these 8 who you think is actually going to win the Derby, and let me know if you think that there's anyone there that is not deserving, that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I guess I'll start there. Who's not deserving? Hate to say it, Alec Bohm is not a home run hitter by any means.
Thank you for being real and not being a homer on that, because what does he have? 12 home runs?
Yeah, I mean, if this was a doubles home run, a double derby, he would definitely win the doubles derby. But he's not a home run hitter. I mean, I don't know. I would have loved to see a guy like Trey Turner there instead, or I mean, Harper's not
just
healthy
came
enough
back from the IL. Like, why wouldn't he be selected? You know, he just mashes. Why not?
Yeah, and I get it. They wanted to get one of the better players on one of the better teams in baseball, and a lot of these representatives are their best players on their teams, respectively. I will say the guy that I'm going to pick to win it is not the best player on his team, and that's Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is built for home run derbies, and that's about it. He's also the Mets' only all-star selection because he's a great home run derby participant, honestly. I mean, he's not doing anything great this year. Brandon Nimmo should be their all-star participant, but we'll get to that. I'm going to pick Pete Alonso just because this is his competition. Everybody else is just kind of there. Pete Alonso's going to win it. Alec Bohm's going to probably finish last. I think Marcelo Osuna could give him a run for his money, but I could see a little Marcelo Osuna, Pete Alonso final. I love that Gunnar Henderson's in it. I love that Bobby Witt's in it, bringing some youth to the game. It'd be nice to see a couple more established guys go for it, especially with they're giving away $1 million. I don't know why, some of these guys don't do it.
I think it's increased, actually. I think it's $2.5 million now.
Is it? It's like, I'd love to do that, but
but
it'll be fun to watch.
Crazier things have happened, right? Yeah, I hate that it's on so late, man. Living on the East Coast, it starts at 8 p.m. for us. That kind of sucks, man. I kind of wish I was back on the West Coast so I could watch it at 5 o'clock. I have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work, so I'm gonna be very tired the next day. Maybe
Baseball
I'll just
on the West Coast is a cheat code. The fact that I was able to wake up in Arizona at 10 a.m. and put on baseball, I was like, this is the best thing of all time. It's the best.
Yeah, pretty awesome, man. Especially when you're a fan of a West Coast team and you actually get to watch the games and they don't start at 10:10. That kind of sucks. All right, so I completely agree with you. I am saying that Pete Alonso is probably going to win. It's definitely going to be between him and Marcelo Osuna. If this was last year, I'd say Adolis Garcia is also in the running for winning the Derby, but he's not showing the type of power that he had last season. And yeah, Alec Bohm, I don't get that, man. 12 home runs on the season, and he's in the Derby. I even Mookie Betts last season and Alex Bregman the season before, like those guys didn't really deserve to be in the Derby also. But, it's kind of like a bucket list thing. Like you can say like, hey, I was in the home run Derby in 2020, whatever, Gunnar Henderson is a great home run hitter. I can see all these other guys potentially winning, the whole thing. Pete Alonso definitely the heavy favorite, even though he doesn't really have a lot of home runs this season either. But he is, like you said, he's built for the home run derby. He knows how to get that launch angle. He's already won it twice, and he's trying to follow in King Griffey Jr.'s footsteps and win it 3 times. So let's talk about some of the rule changes, though. So the 2024 Home Run Derby will no longer be a strict tournament style as we've seen in the past. Instead, all 8 hitters will compete against one another in the first round, with the 4 best performers advancing to the semifinals and seeded 1 through 4 based on how many home runs they hit in the first round. Tiebreakers will be determined by each hitter's longest home run. Through the first 2 rounds, each hitter will have 3 minutes or 40 total pitches, whichever comes first, to rack up as many home runs as they can. Each will be granted one 45-second timeout that cannot be used during bonus time, which is awarded for home runs longer than 425 feet. Now, that's changed from last season because last season was 440 feet. So it's going to be a little bit easier, which I think is fair because they're in Texas this season, and it's hard to hit home runs in Texas. The finals will only grant hitters 2 minutes or 27 pitches, excluding the bonus time. So this season, knockout style does not begin until the semifinals. Last year, the entire Derby was an 8-person single elimination bracket with 3 rounds. The number 1 seed faced the number 8 seed in the first round, and the number 2 faced the number 7, and so on, with seeds being determined by how many regular season homers each player had hit up to that point. The entire competition was knockout style, with any player needing to win 3 separate one-on-one matchups to win the overall title. A few years ago, we saw Jock Peterson and someone else, I don't remember who it was, kind of like going back and forth. They actually had to do a couple overtimes, so that was really fun to watch. So I actually like the knockout style, but I'm willing to give this one a try. This year, there's still an element of one-on-one showdowns, but that won't come into play until the semifinals. This year's first round will have no predetermined seeds, and it will instead consist of all 8 hitters competing. Let's see, we already talked about that. If there is a tie, multiple players hitting in the same home runs in the first round, the tiebreaker will be who had the longest home run hit in that round. The pitch limit is now in place. So last year, there was no formal maximum number of pitches that a hitter could see during an individual round. It was still the case that a lead official had to notify the pitcher when he or she could throw the next pitch to the batter. I've never seen a girl throw the pitch in the home run derby, so I don't know why they would say that. But based on whether it was clear that the previous batted ball would or wouldn't result in a home run, beyond getting that approval from the official, there was no stopping a pitcher from going as fast as he or she wanted. I remember when Bryce Harper won it, his dad was pitching to him, and he was not slowing down. They were telling him, wait for the ball to drop, wait for the ball to drop, but he was not, and Bryce was telling him, like, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, So there is a little room for cheating the way that they had the timer last season. So that could possibly be the reason why they are doing these changes. So this year, that's no longer the case. The first 2 rounds will still be 3 minutes, and the final round will still be 2 minutes, as was the case before 2024. But now there's also a maximum number of pitches each hitter can see in each round. The first round and the semifinals will conclude whenever 3 minutes or 40 pitches comes first. The finals will conclude whenever 2 minutes or 27 pitches comes first, excluding the bonus period. The bonus pitches are no longer on a timer. Last year, there was an automatic 30 seconds of extra time granted to each batter at the conclusion of each regulation period when they hit 440-foot bombs, at least 2 of them. Then beyond that, a hitter could also earn an additional 30 seconds of bonus time, giving him 60 bonus seconds total if he hit 2 home runs at least 440 feet. This year, the bonus pitches are different, both in terms of how they are acquired and how long the bonus period lasts. Instead of getting an automatic 30 seconds of extra time, each player now gets bonus pitches up until they record 3 outs within that bonus period. Furthermore, if a player hits a home run of at least 425 feet within that bonus period, the bonus period is extended to last until the player records his 4th out in that period. But it's no longer the case that hitting especially far home runs during the regulation period leads to extra bonus time. So, what's still the same? For one, the timing aspect hasn't changed as its core. Before getting into the intricacies of bonus rules, each of the first 2 rounds will last 3 minutes, and the final round will last 2 minutes, which hasn't changed. Additionally, the timeout rules are the same. Each batter is entitled to one 45-second timeout in each of the 3 regulation periods, but timeouts cannot be called during the bonus period. And finally, the tiebreaker system, once the knockout stage has begun, will be the same as it has been. Ties in the semifinals or finals will be broken by a 60-second swing off with no stoppage of time or additional time added. If a tie remains after the swing off, battles will engage in successive 3 swing offs until there is a winner. So, 2024 Home Run Derby odds. Pete Alonso is the heavy favorite. Alec Boehm is all the way at the bottom. And that's all I got for the Home Run Derby. So I'm excited more for the Home Run Derby than I am the All-Star Game. And I don't know how you feel about the All-Star Game, but I'm looking at these All-Star starters, and there's a couple guys on here that I think everyone on the team deserves to be there, but there are others that I would actually prefer to see as maybe not as starters, but at least to have the opportunity to be on the All-Star team. So that's actually what we're talking about now, the All-Star snubs. So, John, any All-Stars that you can think of that you think should be on the team, but unfortunately did not get voted in?
I got quite a few. So I'll break it down by pitchers and batters, and feel free to stop me. But Jake Irvin, Mitch Keller, Max Fried, Brady Singer, Gavin Stone, Luis Gil, Sonny Gray, Jack Flaherty, Dylan Cease were some of the main ones that I noticed that weren't on the rosters. The 2 pitchers that really stood out to me that makes literally no sense that they're not all-stars. I guess the one probably makes a little more sense. First one is Christopher Sanchez. My man is 7-4 with a 2.96 ERA. I think, the Phillies already leading baseball with 7 all-stars, and they should have more than that. I think that's why, they didn't want 60% of their rotation in the all-star lineup, but he's 7-4 with a 2.96 ERA. What are we talking about here? You're saying that's not an all-star? And then on the American League side of things, Ronel Blanco, who just has come out of absolutely nowhere with a 9-3 record and a 2.53 ERA, is not an all-star. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So those were the 2. Yeah, I was gonna say those were the two biggest pitching snubs I saw. Was also surprised Dylan Cease. I mean, he should be an all-star, but neither here nor there. As far as batters go, Bryce Terang, Brent Rooker, Logan O'Hoppe, Patrick Bailey, Christian Walker, all snubs. And then the 2 biggest snubs that I saw, Brandon Nimmo. I know I hit on this earlier, but he should be the Mets representative. Pete Alonso is just a sexier name. He's, we said, the Home Run Derby champ. But Brandon Nimmo's got a 252 batting average, which isn't great, but he's got 16 homers, 466 slugging percentage, and an 832 OPS, which is definitely all-star worthy. So I get it. Every team, I don't say I like it, but I understand why every team needs a representative. Brandon Nimmo should be the Mets representative. And then for the Orioles, Jordan Westberg. So when I was reading into this a little bit more, Marcus Semien was the second base representative for the AL. And Semien made it. Granted, his team is hosting the All-Star game, so that definitely has something to do with it. But Semien's batting .229, 12 homers, and 47 RBIs. And Jordan Westberg, who did not make the team, is batting .277 with 15 homers, 50 RBI, and 6 stolen bases. So we know the All-Star game is all, it's fan voting and whatnot, and it's kind of a popularity contest in a sense, but I don't know. There's always going to be snubs. This is what we're here to talk about, and who should be there, who shouldn't be there. But I honestly think the biggest one is Ronel Blanco, which 9-3 with a 2.53 ERA, not being an all-star. What does this guy have to do? He threw a no-hitter.
Yeah, in his age 30 season, right? And he's never really had a big opportunity to play before, and now he's getting the opportunity. It's probably going to be his final chance to play in the All-Star game, and unfortunately we're not going to see that. But I do agree with you on the Jordan Westberg thing, but he is actually an all-star now because Marcus Semien has dropped out. So Marcus Semien is not going to play in
Way to
the
go,
all-star.
Marcus. You know what's up.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't lie.
he's saying that he has like some type of injury, which is preventing him from playing in the all-star game, which may be very well be true, but I still think that Jordan Westberg should have been the first option anyway. And the problem is that the All-Star game is chosen by fans. You know, it's basically a popularity contest. If there's a team that has a lot more fans, then you know, I guess you can say like the Yankees versus the Rays, right? The Yankees are going to have a lot more votes because there's a lot more Yankee fans than there are Rays fans, you know. And if there was someone that was on the Rays that deserved to be on the All-Star team more than someone from the Yankees, unfortunately, because there's more Yankee voters, then that's how they determine the team, which sucks. And Bryce Harper actually said a few years ago, and I love this idea. You have the two former MVPs from the previous season, AL and NL, and they draft their team, you know, and that's how they do the All-Star game. And I think they do that in NBA, possibly. Mm-hmm. I think that's what someone had told me. I'm not really a big basketball guy, but yeah, I think that's an amazing idea, dude. You know, unless you're Shohei Ohtani that wins the American League MVP last season, and then now you're in the National League, then it creates a little bit of a blunder right there. But there's ways to work around that. I'm sure that they can find, you know, a rule change because of, you know, something like that happened. Maybe they give it to the runner-up of the previous season, you know, for the AL MVP or something like that can be the captain instead. But I don't like the fan voting. I know they want people to like kind of like be like more involved, and because they want to see their own teammate or their own the players from the teams that they they root for and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't know, if you're really a baseball fan, you want to see the best guys on the field. You don't necessarily want to see like Jordan Westberg. You know, he's a name that a lot of people don't really know because he is on the Orioles and he's overshadowed by so many other Orioles players. You know, they weren't talking about him when they were bringing up Jackson Holiday, you know, but Jackson Holiday sucked. He went like 1 for 28, and Jordan Westberg is crushing it, you know. But he's not really like a household name, you know, unfortunately, but he should be, you know, because of the production that he's had. So I don't like the format that they have, and they've been doing it for so long, and they're trying to make the baseball like more enjoyable for like younger fans and stuff. And I don't know. I think there needs to be a change in the All-Star game.
It depends. I mean, I might be in the minority here, but I personally love the All-Star game. I think it's probably one of, if not my favorite events. It's definitely the best All-Star game of all the All-Star game, not games in professional sports. Not that says a whole lot, but you know, I love the mic'd up. I think you're onto something with, you know, having whether it's captains or MVPs, because that could get a little tricky. Because would you really have Ronald Acuna drafting a team right now? I don't know, no. But I think they could do something much better with it. What that is, I don't know. That's why they get paid millions of dollars to figure that out. But I love the All-Star game. There's something just, I don't know, not magical, but there's just something always about it where I think it's good to have, you know, the faces of baseball, even if they're not, you know, I'd rather have a good face who's struggling a little bit, but someone who, you know, in comparison, like a Marcus Semien, if he was batting, you know, 260 to Jordan Westberg's 277, you know, I could say, all right, I'd rather have him for his name over Jordan Westberg. But when it's not even close like that, when we're talking about, you know, 229 versus 277, just because his team's hosting an All-Star game, that's where I get kind of pissed, right. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So
who do you think is going to start the All-Star game?
I don't know about you. Like pitching?
Yeah.
I think they've already said it's going to be Garrett Crochet and Paul Skeens. I think.
Did they?
Yeah, I love having Paul Skeens as the starter of the National League. He's the guy that could possibly be the face of Major League Baseball. He has the personality for it. They asked him like, so what do you think about these guys that say that eventually your luck's going to run out and they'll crush you or whatever? And he just told them like, you can think whatever you want, but bring it to. I love the personality that he brings. Garrett Crochet, I haven't really heard much about him. Like I see his numbers, but I haven't really seen any personality. But that's also because team context. Like who gives a crap about the White Sox? I do hear some trade buzz that Crochet could actually be on his way out, and the White Sox could get a huge haul for that in return. Yeah, that'd be exciting to see.
That's the only reason I care about the White Sox right now is because they have two guys I would love to see where this at. And
Luis Robert.
Totally. If we could get him and Crochet, the Phillies have the prospects to do it.
Do they? I don't know. I don't really know the farm system like you do.
Yeah, they do have it now. Would they? They never have prospects, so it's kind of nice to hold on to them too. But it'd be intriguing. I think the Phillies will make some kind of splash. I don't know what your Dodgers are looking like, but I think if there's any team that's going to make some kind of splash, it'll be the Phillies, the Yankees. We're going to be talking a lot of trade deadline here too, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, Luis Robert is he's going to get traded, and I now's the time to trade Crochet too and maximize his value. Yeah,
and honestly, like I think that the Dodgers are actually the favorites to get Crochet. I don't know about Luis Robert because the Dodgers actually have a really good outfield. I think that they'd probably trading like a second baseman or a shortstop and just moving Mookie back to right field. That there's so many outfielders on the Dodgers that are really, really good, versus the infield that's kind of shaky, at least bat wise. You got Kike Hernandez that kind of moves all over, Chris Taylor that kind of moves all over, Miguel Rojas that's a little bit older. Gavin Lux just hasn't really panned out. So it'd be nice to see like possibly a Bo Bichette that's struggling right now that probably has a little bit low value that the Dodgers could get kind of cheap. They ended up getting Kevin Biggio, which was a little bit weird in my head. Like, why would you trade for Kevin Biggio? Are you trying to bring out the baseball in him because he was a former top prospect? I don't know, but I see Bo Bichette as another breakout option for the second half. His batting average is like 209, but his career batting average is a lot closer to 300. Doesn't run like he used to. His sprint speed has dropped dramatically, but he's had a lot of calf issues, and he's actually hurt right now, currently day to day with a calf issue. So I don't know what's going to come of that, but I don't know. Luis Robert, I could definitely see him in a Phillies uniform. If the White Sox are going to be sellers, I think it's going to be two top contenders of guys that just the teams that want to put themselves over the top. The Phillies and the Dodgers are the powerhouses of the National League, and both teams got to make moves before the trade deadline to kind of like solidify that. I don't think there's any other National League teams that are even worth mentioning, like in the same breath as the Dodgers and the Phillies. I think it's going to be an interesting NLCS between those two teams.
Braves are going to be in the mix.
Maybe
they're just too good.
They have to do something else because they don't really have. So they lost their ace and they lost their best position player. So that's a lot to try to fill. Are they the ones to go after Luis Robert because they need an outfielder? Are they the ones to go after Crochet because they need an extra starting pitcher? That'd be great for the long run because Spencer Strider plus Crochet, all their other starting pitchers, they're okay. They're old, or they had some prospects that really haven't panned out the way that they thought they would. I think the Braves are just as good as the Phillies when all their players are healthy. That would be actually very fun to watch during the season to see those.
The NLDS says otherwise, but
yeah, well, one season changes from one season to another. So
back-to-back years.
All right, Homer. All right, guys. We talked about the home run derby and the All-Star break, and breakouts and busts, and we have reached the end of our show. We appreciate everyone for watching or listening, or actually that's it, because you can only watch or listen when we're doing a podcast, right? So yeah, so we will see you guys next week after the All-Star break. Enjoy the time, and I'm going to put this back up. Please scan that QR code in the top right corner, and it'll take you to all of our social medias. Like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff, and we appreciate all of you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you.